I think our relationship has improved. 10 out of 10 would ghost again.
Welcome back, everyone, to Season 2 of Now What? Not Another 20-Somethings podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Valdez, and joining me are your other two co-hosts, Alexa Hinton and Nina Naval. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, or maybe who are discovering our podcast and finished Season 1 or hopping on for Season 2, we do what we like to call our Now What moments of the week. Those moments of the week where we either do something really good, we achieve something like a promotion, or something really bad happens and you're kind of like, now what? So to start us off, Alexa, why don't you tell us of your Now What moment of the week?
Okay, well, first off, I just want to say I'm so excited to be back. This is going to be a really good season, and I'm super excited about it. So now what? Season 2. My now what for the week is I have been losing weight pretty rapidly recently, and I'm not necessarily sure why. I'm of two minds of it. There's one mind that's WebMD saying I'm just dying, and there's the other mind that is River Monsters and saying I have a worm in there. And then the third mind is Women's Magazine saying, don't worry about it, it's a good thing, which none of those are the right answer. And I think it's interesting that it's like, I heard something a couple years ago that was like, the first thing that pops into your mind is usually the thing you were like conditioned to think, or like that you were supposed to think, and then what you actually think after that is your own opinion. So I think that like that's been interesting to dive into, of the like, I'm told not to care about this. I'm told that this is a quote unquote good thing. And yet, why is it happening? I don't know why it's happening. Isn't that like a medical thing I should check out? The other side of that though is like, ooh, in this economy, going to the doctor? Anyway, so we'll see what happens.
Stay tuned, and if Lexi's not here in 5 episodes, rest in peace.
Rest in peace, the homie,
Rest in peace, Lexi. You would have loved the second half of Season 2. No, but literally, okay, if you're worried about financially going to the doctor, NYU faculty practices and Langone hospitals have a financial aid program that you can just fill out, and like that's how I got free healthcare for my college years.
That's actually majority of hospitals. They just don't like you to know
a lot
that.
of the time too, if you write letters after the fact, like hardship letters to the hospitals, like they will reduce the bill. Yeah. Or asking for itemized bills, because they're always trying to upcharge you. But anyway, Nina, what about you? What's your now what of the week?
I got let me count. So I'm a photographer, I'm a bookstore owner, I'm a podcaster, I'm an actress, I think that's everything, right? And I am also now a literary events manager. Oh, and I'm a teacher. 6. And I got a 6th. Oh. What's the 7th?
You're a book editor.
Oh yeah.
That's so true. Mm-hmm. I got 7 jobs.
Yep.
And not to say that I hate any of these, because I truly love keeping a busy schedule. But I fear that what occurred, listener, in case you are wondering how one finds themselves in this mess, the ADHD was bored one day and said, in that one day, perhaps I shall start a new career. You know how when you have ADHD, you have dead hobbies? I have very alive professions, apparently, all coming for my door. And so now I've just started as a literary events manager for a cookbook. If you want to learn how to make Asian food, Marisol's Kitchen is having a cookbook for sale. And we're probably going to be doing events all around this tri-state area. If you're in Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey, I say probably, I mean definitely, because it is my job to schedule those. So we will be doing this, or I will get fired. Find out, find out throughout the season. Find out next week if I get
Wow.
fired. How about you, Natalie?
Well, I don't collect careers like Pokemon. However, I do collect hobbies. Ooh, do I collect hobbies? My most recent one is a book bedazzling. Having a great time. It is so soothing. That being said, my now what of the week is gonna be career related once again, podcast related. Those of you who have noticed or who have found us on YouTube, are doing video. So you can officially see our faces. You're welcome. And I now have to edit video, and I was editing video earlier today. I had to do this like a million and one times in college, but apparently all of those skills went out the window. And so I spent like 35 minutes today just editing like 2 minutes of video. So we will see how that goes. So my now what is, I've got to brush up my what should be very alive professions and learn how to, make this podcast as wonderful for you guys as possible. And with that being said, let's get into season 2, episode 1's topic. So, your parents were right. Now what? So, those of you who don't know, we are all currently in our mid-20s. So, we have been adulting for a brief minute now. And so I believe we have reached the age where we can briefly admit that perhaps our parents may have known a little something and a little more than we thought they did when we were about 16, 17. And although that is a very hard pill to swallow, it is a very important lesson in life because your parents or your guardians, mentors who are older than you are there to help you and, believe it or not, hold some wisdom. With that, Lexi, why don't you tell us how your relationship changed with your parent once you reached what, at least in the United States, is considered adulthood, which is the age of 18?
Yeah, I mean, like, I do definitely think that it doesn't happen immediately. Like, it wasn't something where I was like, oh, I'm 18 now and everything has changed immediately. It happens over time. I feel like on the good side, I really like that I'm able to have like more open communication with my family. I feel like I am able to be myself in a space in a way that I wasn't before. Um, and I'm comfortable being myself in those spaces. I don't feel the need to put on a show or put on any type of there's no specific audience. I don't care anymore. My family is gonna think what they think, and that's pretty much it. And on the bad side, well, not necessarily the bad side, but on the flip side, I think that my family and your parents, as they want to do, like they want to give you the opportunity to land on your own 2 feet, there's just a lot less like, tell me what to do. Please tell me what to do. I don't know what I'm doing. I beg of you, just tell me what the right answer is. And they won't.
And that's like the funny part about becoming an adult, because how many times did we either ranting to our friends, or if you were bold, said it to your parents, don't tell me what to do, like don't tell me what to do. And then you reach this threshold, this transition where you're like, no, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? Like, tell me what I need to do right now.
Like, as the wonderful Taylor Swift says, how can I know everything at 18 and nothing at 22? Like, all of a sudden, it felt like a chasm opening underneath me. Like, I hit 18, 19, I had just moved out, I was in college, I was killing it. I was like, I know exactly what I'm doing right now. And then all of a sudden, like, the real world came knocking, and I was like, huh? What do you mean there's not a singular answer for everything? There are so many options. How do I know which the right ones are? I don't know. What about you guys, though? Like, Natalie, what do you think?
The hesitation, because you already know what I'd say. But yes, Natalie, please do go on.
Well, I mean, I think it's depending on your relationship with your parent or who you consider your parent, because I know there's a lot of complex family dynamics out there, it's easy to harp on the things they did wrong or the things they didn't get right in your upbringing, but there are semblances of them giving you a word of advice or saying something throughout your childhood that ends up proving true when you get older. When it comes to parents and those who you consider parents, it's hard to admit that they're right ever, especially when you are transitioning into adulthood because you've spent the better part of 12 years being like, my mom knows nothing. My dad knows nothing. Grandma
Mhm.
doesn't know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
Um, and then suddenly you turn, 23 and you're like, wait, what was that thing dad said about like unscrewing something and putting a nail into drywall? There's an important fact I need to know here. Or, one thing I heard a ton when I was growing up, and you guys can chime in if you heard this too, is being a girl, you reach an age of about 12 where you become the sassiest freaking person on the planet. And you discover sarcasm for the first time. And your mother suddenly becomes your enemy. And you battle it out basically until you reach the age of about, I don't know if I've reached that age yet, but I heard all the time that, oh, just wait. You're going to turn 20 and your mom's going to become your best friend. And I was always like, yeah, right. Uh-huh. Sure. But then I moved out of the house, and not only moved out of the house, moved states and was thousands of miles away from my mother. And I was calling her like every 3 hours to be like, hey, I just had pasta. Hey, it's like bad if something is green and it's not supposed to be, right? Hey, what does frostbite look like? And do you think I have it? Basically became my mom's worst nuisance and treated her like Google, because suddenly I turned into, yeah, no, my mom does know everything. Like, I need to call my mom,
It's like going back to toddler mode. It's like you go full circle into like, yeah, they know everything, and like I'll just do
Yeah.
whatever my mommy says. Like,
What do you mean? I'm just gonna call my mom.
I'm just gonna go to my mat. I'm gonna go. They're so big and they know everything. Like,
Which is hilarious to admit now, because my mom and I had a very rocky relationship for majority of my lifetime, and it only started becoming easier and more understanding both on her end and my end probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And so that's still something I'm navigating, but maybe I'll tell her not to listen to this episode because I don't know if she'll ever let me live it down if I tell her she was right. But Nina, I know that unfortunately your mom is not with us anymore, but I'm sure you have some.
I can certainly rack my brain for them. It's me, your favorite orphan. So
Nina. You have red hair. You could be Annie.
I could sing about tomorrow.
The
indeed.
name do be Maria Anna.
And I will tell you, my mother's name was Annie. So, if anything, it's in my blood.
Is this a premonition?
That's why I look so young still. It's so
Oh
that
my
I can still
God.
play Annie. I will never age until I play Annie. In fact, maybe once I play Annie, I'll finally be 5'11".
Maybe.
No, but I mean, no, I can't even think of a moment where I think my parents were right about anything. So, but, I have to say, now that she's dead, I think that, yeah, she could have potentially been right. I won't know for certain unless I do a little seance and a little Ouija board, in which case she'd probably ignore it because she doesn't want me to use Ouija boards. But yeah, so in short, don't really get it, but I'm here for the moment. Yeah, Natalie.
No, this is so off topic, but I just thought of the worst but best sticker idea.
What?
A Ouija board, but it says "Hi, Mom" on it.
Stickers coming soon, guys.
Yes!
Stickers coming soon.
I would use it. I would use it for everything. In fact, like, literally, I would use it for everything.
Come on, that's not like it's so funny.
Yeah, that would be really funny.
Listen, the fact
Wow.
that my mom is dead is probably the funniest thing about me.
No, nah, there are worse things, Nina.
Listen.
I like to think my funniest piece of trauma is my grandfather, who married my husband and I, dying on our 1-year anniversary, and then my parents dressing him in the same suit that he wore to our wedding, and without telling me or my husband.
It's called foreshadowing.
Is this just our dark humor era that's just gonna be slipping out?
It's all in the mood. I'm sorry.
This is fantastic.
What are you guys like? What is the advice that your parents or whoever you consider like your adults in your life? What did they give you that you actually do use on a daily or weekly basis?
Never come back.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
That's fair.
No, I mean, like, they wanted me out of the country and I should stay out of the country.
Really? Why is that?
Well, you know, other than their general distaste for me, it would seem, is that, like, I think that one of the things that have been very consistent about me is this idea of I deserved more than what I was getting in the Philippines. And I know a lot of people, when I say, oh, I moved to America, especially now, they're like, but why would you do that? I'm like, listen, y'all, I get how bad it is here. Let me tell you, it's worse.
Yeah.
It gets worse. There is worse. In the Philippines, you can't get divorced. Not that I want to get divorced, but I sure would like the option. You know, like, should
Yeah.
something happen, God forbid, you know, or, you know, gay marriage isn't legal. Birth control in general was kind of iffy for a moment. Like, if you think the Trump agenda, you have someone to point to here for being like, you put this back into our sort of conservative brain of thought. In the Philippines, it's just normal. And so people assumed I was stupid a lot just because I look the way that I do. And they didn't think they never thought I was from the Philippines. They thought I was from America, from Scandinavia, from Canada, from Germany, from literally any white place.
Yeah.
Just because of the way I looked, and therefore I must not have a lot of brain to me, because also I look a little pretty sometimes. So
you are pretty. Say it with confidence. You're pretty.
She doesn't need the smarts because she's got the pretty factor. And
also said in Women's Health magazine. Anyway.
But yeah, so like I think, you know, I just really had a distaste for anything to do with that. So when I started having this sort of discourse, like I used to start fights with history teachers. They'd talk about the Renaissance man and how the Renaissance man should do all of these things. And I'd be like, but what about the women? And they'd be like, oh, well, the women, they'll do music and sew, I guess. I'm like, no, sweetie, no. That's not that doesn't stick with me. In fact, I don't care if that's historically true. Like, that is no longer a reality. And yet I can see these things impacting our day-to-day life all of the fucking time. And I want to be somewhere better. And that is how I got here. So when they say don't come back, it's because they know that if I do come back, I'm probably going to pick a lot of fights. It's really for my benefit and the benefit of the rest of the world. Natalie, what about you?
I'm like, so it's like one of those things where you get asked a question and you think of every single opposite answer to that question. I'm thinking about all of the advice I was given from my parents that I never got,
Mm-hmm.
that I never took. But you know
Mm-hmm.
what? What actually I think the advice that I have taken the most to heart is to, and I'm still young, like this is a very niche part of your 20s, but my mom always said, do everything you want to do before you have children.
Mm-hmm.
Travel the world. Make sure, if you want to live your 20s and go to the club until you're at like 4 a.m., do it. Do everything you could possibly think or possibly imagine you want to do before you have children, whether or not you think you wouldn't be able to do it with children, just because you fundamentally change as a human being and as a person when you become a mother. And like I said, that doesn't apply to everyone, but like my husband and I have been taking our time. We toured Europe. I was literally in London and France in February because my mom is very big on just take those opportunities because she didn't. And that's not a regret that she has. It's just more of a, man, it would have been so cool to say that I had gone to Europe in my 20s versus going to Europe for the first time in my 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they're completely different experiences, but there is more freedom. And
Yeah.
so essentially, don't waste your freedom. And it's not the, oh, kids lock you down. And once you have children, you'll see you'll never be able to do anything again. But it's more of the, if this is a path you want to go down, if you want children, once you have that child, you're, oh, only thinking about yourself or putting yourself first stops, hard stops
Mm-hmm.
right then and there. So,
Mm-hmm.
not to be dramatic, but it's, you will live your life up until this point, and wherever that point stops, when you make that decision, that's it. That is the most you, only you will ever be. And so my mom was very big on like, it doesn't matter how long it takes you, do not go through that process until you feel fully yourself and fully satisfied with the activities and things that you have completed in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably the thing that I have taken the most to heart, because I do just jump at the chances that are presented to me as much as I can.
Which is like a good way to go about it too, is just take the opportunity while it comes because you don't know if it's going to come again. You know, you don't know what the
Yeah.
future is going to hold. So if you can do something right now that's going to make you really happy, go for it. I don't know. I think I kind of agree, and I do really want to hear all of the advice that you didn't take from your parents. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Um, I will say something that my mom said very, very often when I was growing up was, it's not what you say, it's the way you say it. And that always comes back to me when I think like I can say whatever I need to say. I don't need to be rude about it. I don't need to be condescending about it. I don't need to do anything except for present my opinion or present my point of view. In the converse too is like you can be saying the nicest thing ever, but if you're going about it like as a jerk or like backhanded or like anything like that, like it doesn't mean the same thing. It doesn't have the same impact. So I think that always just kind of reminded me to put my kindest foot forward, if that makes sense. Which I think is really funny because like I'm already gonna start it, but like something that I think I didn't take from my parents is that both of them I feel are very reactive people when things happen, and that's not a bad thing. I am now a very reactive person when things happen. Like I immediately want to fix it. I need an answer right now. Like if I'm being treated the wrong way, gone. I'll never speak to you again. Like you know what I mean? Like I'm very like cut and dry. I have to do something right now to feel like I've solved the problem or to feel like I've done something. And that's not necessarily who I want to be. Like on the two sides of the same coin of like trying to be kind and trying to go about the best possible ways to present the information that I want to share does come from also sitting back for a second, realizing what my feelings are, realizing what the facts and reality is, and trying to combine the two before I actually go out of my way and present something into the world. You know what I mean? Because you
Hmm.
can't usually take things back as much as you want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and it kind of reminds me too, like I think so now that I think about it, there was one good piece of advice that my dad gave me that I think has stuck with me throughout my entire life, which I think will be very obvious once you find out what it is. It's Google is your best friend.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it does, doesn't it? When you think about the seven freaking jobs. Okay, like, how do I do this? I Googled it. All right, like that's how I got here. That's how I got in this mess. Okay, I never once said I don't know. I said let me Google it. Okay,
You're
but
telling me you didn't become like a master metal wielder in like 48 hours by watching 14 YouTube videos? Like, what do you mean?
I know,
What are you
like
talking about?
crazy, crazy. Like, what do you mean you didn't learn engineering from that one Vsauce video? Okay, like,
Yeah.
my parents taught me the most with their own behavior. Like, I would see what they did, how it worked, how it didn't work, and then carried that with me. Like I say all the time, like my mom was an alcoholic before she died. And so I have a set number of rules for myself. I don't drink just because I'm upset. I don't drink when I'm alone. Or like um if I already drank like seven doubles of whiskey to impress my boyfriend, guess who's not drinking for another 3 months? Me. Like I kind of, not that I have like a set number or a set quota, but if I just feel like, oh, you know what, I've been drinking a little bit too much this week, like I can either drink once in big amount or many times in small amount or not at all. And I make those rules and decisions for myself just to moderate and make sure that I am not carrying any sort of addiction with me, though I might be addicted to collecting jobs anyway. So that is something I carry for myself. Or when my dad used to get upset at me, he used to do the silent treatment and like be like, you should figure out
Yes.
what, like you should figure out like what you did wrong to make this happen, you know. And I work with kids now, and I am very, very transparent about like, hey, this is what happened. This is why we cannot have that behavior. It has nothing to do with, ruining your fun. It has nothing to do with taking joy in your misery. It has everything to do with your safety. It has everything. I just like really write it out for them so that they can understand what's happening behind all of my decisions. So I don't seem like an unpredictable figure to them, you know? And so I think like this space of unsafeness that they kind of grew me up around ended up being the blueprint later for me to make sure that I am a safe person for people around me. What about you, Natalie?
Well, in terms of advice that I didn't take from my parents, I was always told uh, three fundamental things. You don't move in with your best friend, ever. You don't bring a boyfriend to college.
Oh,
And
you know, you
um
didn't do that.
and you shouldn't get married young.
Oh.
So I did all of those things. I brought a boyfriend to college. I moved in with my best friend, and I got married at 21. So yeah, I didn't take any of those advices, but they did have relatively good reasoning for those advices that they gave me. Is that the proper plural for advice?
I think it's just advice.
Yeah, I think it's just advice.
Advices.
Advices.
Advice
And
I.
this is
Yeah. So my mom's reasoning for you don't bring a boyfriend to college is because she felt like if you do, then you're not really getting to explore your adult self. You still have something anchoring you to your pre-college or pre-adult self, which valid, makes sense. I agree. Unless you're me and my husband, in which
Yeah.
I disagreed. Because I knew I wasn't your average 18-year-old in a high school relationship, and he knew he wasn't your average 18-year-old in a relationship where, if we were going to take the plunge of doing long distance, I'm gonna be good at it, like this is a challenge and I'm gonna win. In terms of moving in with your best friend, my dad, that was advice from my father actually, because he moved in with his two best friends, and it did not go well because you are around this person all the time. B, learn certain nuances in this relationship that you wouldn't if you weren't living with them. So their cleanliness level, when they go to sleep, when they wake up, who they like to bring home, etc., etc. And so my dad got into tons of fights with his best friends, and when they moved out, the relationship wasn't nearly as close as it was when they moved in.
Mhm.
And so he was always like, if this is a relationship you value and you want to protect, don't bring cohabitation into that relationship. It's not gonna work. Except I didn't listen. And I
And then you
moved
had the
in.
dark days.
Well, yeah, I moved in with Lexi and we had our dark days. And those of you who are curious about the dark days, that is going to all be delved into in episode 8 of season 1, relationship problems. Uh,
but like 80% of us living together was fine. So
yeah. And it wasn't even like we lived with each other for a good 2 years, almost 3,
yeah.
and beyond our dark days, we managed to cohabitate really well. And I actually think that living together made our relationship stronger because we know how to communicate with each other regardless of the issue. There
Yeah.
is not a single topic that is now like you can't talk about it.
Yeah.
And it worked out for me. But I do understand that, like, if you and your bestie are two very different people, two very opposite ends of the spectrum. For example, the fourth member of Four Sick Girls Media, who is a guest star occasionally on Now What, Victoria, she is my bestie for the resties. Love her. Could not live with her at all. We would probably tear each other's heads off. Like, we live two very separate lives that it wouldn't work. So on one hand, yeah, that advice makes sense. I understand it. And then the not getting married young, I did because at that point when I got married to my husband, we had been together for 6 years. Yeah, 6 years. And I didn't see the purpose of waiting any longer. But that advice is advice I will probably give to my own children of do not get married young unless wholeheartedly 100% no doubt in your mind this is what you want and you've been together longer than 5 years. That is the only way that I would ever be like, yeah, get married at 21, because the same thing, like you don't get to know who you are until a lot later into your 20s, or there's ebbs and flows when it comes to your adult life, and learning how to be on your own, and getting married kind of does sever that independence in a way. And so if you're super young and you haven't been together with this person for all that long, you are A, sacrificing your independence, and then B, committing yourself to growing throughout your 20s and in your 30s and your 50s with this other person, and saying that you will love them at 25 and at 45. And if you've only known this person for a year, how can you really be sure about that commitment? So again, I agree with that advice. I just didn't take it because I did meet these certain stipulations I had for myself.
Like, how did your parents react to you not taking that advice? Because I feel like that is a big part of that transition, is getting to a point where your life looks different than the way that your parents imagined it should.
I think it confused them, and I also think that they thought they were going to be right in the end. Not in a cocky way, but this is just something she's going to need to learn herself way. And I think it also terrified them because, they've made these mistakes in the past. That's where this advice came from, was this learned experience. And so, giving it out to your child or someone you love and you value who is younger than you and then watching them not take it is probably terrifying. Like, okay, don't take the advice, but when you are completely and utterly heartbroken, or you and your best friend of 10 years no longer speak, I'm not going to say I told you so, but I might look at you a little funny. And, speaking of that transition, how did things change with your guys' relationship when you moved out of the house, at whatever age that was?
I think, honestly, I was a very isolated kid. So when it came to parental relationships and stuff, not much changed. Like, I already didn't really speak to my father. I already didn't really speak to my mother unless it was like once in a like once a day, maybe, like just as a hi, or like dinner's great. Um so when I moved out, it really was, I did go through this period of no contact with everybody.
Mhm.
Like, I really, really was like, I'm not speaking to anybody ever again. Um, and then slowly I began speaking to my mom, and then suddenly I'd start calling her. And this happened particularly throughout the pandemic. I'd start calling her and I'd start asking for her opinion on things. I'd get like a answer that I didn't always like, but expected. um but like, I found that I started really reaching for it a little more, even if I didn't necessarily agree with it, just to have that sense of human contact. It really didn't change super a lot. I'd say it changed more when I graduated. But what about you, Lexi? How did your
Like,
relationships
yeah,
change?
like graduated high school or college?
College.
College. I I would say I agree. I think I talked about this a little bit last season, but my mom was really sick when I was really young. So I spent a lot of my like formative years and growing up time with my grandma, more than anything. And so I feel like there was a lot of time where my mom to me was more of just like a fun older sister or like a best friend or something like that. Like I felt like when my grandmother passed away that like me having a parent was gone. Now I just have this like fun person who wants to like throw some advice my way every once in a while, but like isn't in the same capacity like outlining my safety and security, you know? I think that led to really like an interesting dynamic when we tried to be on the phone more than we were in person. Like to this day, I don't get in fights with my mom when we're in person. But over the phone,
Mm-hmm.
like everything she says, I'm analyzing. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
it's just such a different dynamic. And
Yeah.
I don't know how to get through that. Like I think we've gotten better at it over the years, and I'm sure we will continue to get better
Mm-hmm.
at it, but it's it's interesting that like it just the information just doesn't get communicated in the same way when you're not like in the room with somebody or seeing them every day even. um I noticed it the most, and I would love to hear like kind of Natalie your thoughts too, and Nina, like because you guys are both married, so like
Mm-hmm.
you've committed to the bit. um
Yes, we
We
have.
to the bit.
Yes,
you've
we
committed to the
have. To
bit.
the bit.
Oh,
You've
It
committed
was
to the
just a
bit,
we
little
guys.
did it for
joke,
the vine.
and like we just right. We were like, listen, you know what'd be really funny right now if I just thrifted this TikTok. If I just thrifted my wedding dress from the Taylor Swift bookstore in New York City and actually gotten married.
Exactly. Hilarious. No,
It
but
was meant
like,
to be.
yeah. I feel like though the line was pushed more abruptly when I got into like my most serious relationship, the relationship I'm in right now, because for the first time, you look at your family member and you're not within their immediate circle of family anymore. You know what I mean? You look at these people that you've grown up with your entire life, you've
Yeah.
only ever known being incredibly close to the individuals around you, and then all of a sudden they are off creating a new family of their own.
Mhm.
I am off creating a new family, a new life of my own. Our tree branches are growing, and that means we grow further apart. It doesn't mean we're not connected still, but it's a different dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very hard. It's not like an easy thing to like give up some of the
Yeah.
level of intimacy that you may have had or that they may have felt they had with you. You know what I mean? Like it goes all ways.
Yeah.
No, I mean, absolutely. I like to think that there were two major transitions between my relationship with my parents in adulthood. One, when I moved out with you, Lexi, I specifically with Lexi, because that was a choice I made on my own. Um, where it was during the pandemic. So I was home again. You know, I got sent home from the dorms in NYU because, hello, global pandemic.
Mhm.
And I made the choice to say, hey, I can't stay here for however long this pandemic lasts. I need to get out and I'm going back to New York City because at that time, that was my home. That's where I felt the safest. That's where I felt like I wanted to be. And
Mhm.
so, you know, I made that choice. I moved out. I got myself an apartment. I saved up and I paid rent. And I think that's when the biggest shift happened with my parents because now that I had this distance, I felt not like I could be more honest, but I guess I just a little more bold because in my head I was like, you can't reach me. You can yell at me, you can say you don't like what I'm doing all you want, but you literally can't stop me. And it's not like I was a rebellious kid. You know, I wasn't out here doing anything crazy, but I remember one moment where my parents, I think, realized that they had lost their sense of control on me,
Mhm.
and they did not know how to deal with it. And we, in similar to as Lexi was talking about, like you start your own little family, you know, there is that now separation. And it was a conversation that ended up blowing up, and I actually went no contact with them for a little bit because this conversation was so bad, and it had something to do with my now husband. And it was one of those moments where it was like, well, either you choose us or you choose him. And immediately I was like, it's him. No questions
Yeah.
asked, no hesitation. That is my family, and you do not get to, you know, decide whether or not you agree with the person I have accepted into my life at this point. And I remember me going no contact and being like, you can't, A, treat the person I love that way, and B, you can't treat me that way. And I remember that really shook them because I sat down with them once we started slowly talking and I was like, listen, if you want to be a part of my life, if you ever want to meet your grandchildren, that cannot happen again. I will not hesitate to cut contact at all, you know? And I think that was the most dramatic shift because it was the first time I think they finally were forced to see me as an adult, see me as someone making my own decisions.
Mhm.
And once that talk happened, I got a little more bold. So I come from a pretty much all Christian family, like my dad's side of his family, my mom's side of the family. And one thing within like the way you are led to live is you don't move in with your significant other before you get married. That's just a no-no. It's just not something you do. I did that. I moved in with my husband before we were married. Mind you, wait, I also moved in with Lexi, okay? It wasn't like
I was
Yeah,
still
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Perpetual
Alexi was
third wheel, still around.
you know, and I remember making this decision, and surprisingly, my mom was actually on board because in my mom's mind, she was like, yeah, that's not the way I would go about it, but they're two girls alone in New York City and they'll have a man. So I'm all for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where my dad was not okay with it in the slightest, was not on board, did not agree
Hmm.
because of just the image he had for my life, like you were saying, Nina, or was it Lexi? One of you. Um, that's
I'm
not the
sure it
way,
applies.
right? It was
Huh.
just not the way they saw my life going. And that's okay. That's fine. And it took a lot of therapy and a lot of just, breathing in and out to be like, it's okay to disappoint your parents. I will say
Mhm.
that one more time. It is okay to disappoint your parents because you don't make the choice that they would want you to make for your well-being. If
Mhm.
making choice A is only going to please them and not please you, make choice B. It's as much as they love you and they want the better for you, your well-being needs to come first, always.
Mhm.
And I think that was probably the biggest thing I learned in that transition was this is the decision I'm making for my relationship and for the way I see my future going, and either you get on board or you don't get on at all. End of
Mhm.
story. And then I think the second largest transition was actually when I got married. Um, in a funny way, okay? Because I just told you all of these things that I did in my 20s and like, oh, we got into massive fights, we went no contact. And then I get married, okay? And I remember this so clearly because my husband was making fun of me. He was like laughing because we decided we were going to go out and it was 11 p.m. and I just walked out the door. And my parents didn't ask where I was going, who I was going with, or when I was going to be back. And I was like, wait, hold on. Huh? Like, I'm sorry. Am I like in the Twilight Zone right now? And, maybe it's because I grew up in a very traditional worldview Christian household where, like, oh, you're married now, like, whatever. He's your keeper, not us. Um, but it was just like that immediate transition that to this day, I'm still not used to. Like, sometimes
Mhm.
I'm just like, wait, huh? What do you mean? And then they finally saw me as an adult, but not just like oh, she's an adult, but she's an adult and she's her own person.
Yeah.
This is Natalie Valdez. This is not Natalie Velez, the, 4-year-old toddler we remember. This is a grown woman who makes grown choices and has her own life experience. And I think that has shifted the dynamic in both a good and a bad way because I'm a lot more bold, and B, they when we get into fights now, it is more of a conversation and a discussion. But if it does get blown up, I feel comfortable to be like, hey, you can't talk to me that way. Or you can't talk about someone I love that way. Or, the reaction you're having to this situation is inappropriate and we need to calm down. I have no
Mhm.
problem saying those things, whereas maybe 2, 3 years ago, that would never leave my mouth. So it's both a healthy and a very interesting transition that we're still battling and still working out.
Yeah. Because it's just like it was a outside experience that forced a very hard line on you guys all at once. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, cut off now.
And like that being said, okay, so there was a lot of negative there. What has been your favorite thing about being an adult and how that has changed your relationship with your family?
Well, I can't argue with my mom anymore, so that's really nice for me. Because now she agrees with me a lot more than she used to. Um, and so, I'll be like, "Hey, mom, it really sucks, misogyny." And instead of saying you gotta learn when to fight your battles and you gotta pick your fights and etc., she just goes, "Yeah, you know what, kid, it really does suck." And it doesn't sound like her at all. It really just sounds like me talking to myself. But I think our relationship has improved. 10 out of 10 would ghost again.
Oh my
um
God. Uh,
Lexi, what about you though?
Yeah, I would say the thing that's changed the most for me in probably the way that I appreciate the most is, and I hope some people can relate to me out here with this one. I think there was a lot of things that I did in my teen years and my early 20s that I did specifically to get the attention of my family. I did it so that somebody could see that, like, this is what I'm trying to present, this is what I'm trying to do, and like, you just need to notice me. Like, I'm just doing all these things to be noticed. And I got to a point, like, when this transition was sort of happening, where my family all of a sudden were very like, yeah, you do you. And like, whatever you're doing, we'll support. And all of a sudden, it's like, everything's fine. You get like, you're totally cool to, yeah, that's what you're doing. You're doing a podcast. Awesome. Like, great. Happy for you.
Mhm.
Which was very weird at first. I'm like, you have no opinions?
At all?
None? None?
Mhm.
But it was also very freeing to be able to say, like, am I doing this because I want to do it? Or am I doing it because there's some version of me that thinks that it's what I'm supposed to be doing, or thinks that I'm gonna get some sort of reaction that I don't really care about it. You know what I mean? I don't need a reaction because this is my life. And I'm gonna pick the best thing for me. And I think I would love, like, your guys' opinions on this as well, and like kind of to gauge where they're at. I will say, to her benefit, my mom did a really good job at letting me spread my wings and making it very known that she wanted me to dream as big as I possibly could. Like, she
Mhm.
always sort of harped on the fact, and when I was young, it kind of made me nervous because I felt like, oh, she's just trying to push me out of the nest, and what if I'm not ready? And now I understand it a little bit more. She always told me that, like, she raised me to leave her. She raised me to go so far away from her and never look back, kind of in the same way like Nina, your family is saying in their own way.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Like,
I mean, yes. Yes, okay, like I do I do bitch on them a lot. Um and I think sometimes it is well deserved. Other times I am just the comic relief. But no, yeah, I mean, they did want me to dream as big as I possibly could and go for it. Not every family would have been as supportive of their kid moving all the way across the world to get a drama degree. um
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, I think that's probably one thing all
mhm.
of our parents got right, because we all three of us would not be sitting here talking on a
Yeah.
podcast if we weren't dreamers, and if we weren't allowed
Yeah.
to be
yeah.
dreamers. So
Absolutely.
I think that's definitely, like,
Mhm.
Lexi, you're right. That's probably the thing I'm most grateful for, is because I come from a family of dreamers. At least both my parents, like my dad, his profession is his passion, and he dropped out of college because he was like, I don't need it. I don't want it, and my mom, she wasn't born in this country, and she came over here, and she still had this, like, Hispanic worldview of, you get your education and then you
Mhm.
get married, and your job is to be a good housewife, to cook, to clean, to bear the children. And my mom took that and said, LOL, no thank you, and got 4 degrees, because she was like, I want as much knowledge as I possibly can, because that's why I'm in this country, like, I want all of the opportunity. And so growing up, she made sure I had that option. It was never, you're going to get married and then you're going to have children, and that's the plan for your life. It wasn't, oh, you have to stay near home because you're the daughter. That's in our culture,
Mhm.
you need to take care of the parents. That is your job. That was never what was taught to me, despite it being all around me. It was always, do whatever the heck you want, and if anyone tells you
Mhm.
otherwise, come talk to me, you know? And so I guess I can appreciate that in some
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
sense.
I
Yeah.
know my family, they for what it's worth, they all believed in my stubbornness. Then they were like, yeah, you know what? It doesn't really matter what we tell her. She'll do it with or without us. We might as well be along for the ride, which I really appreciate because sometimes, then, it is kind of, sometimes it does get a little tense because I get this sense of being watched, and this sense of waiting to be told I told you so. But it also does fuel me of you wouldn't be watching if you didn't think there was at least a little bit of me that might prove you wrong.
Yeah.
And so watch all you want. I'm going to latch onto that piece so that I can come back and I'll be like, and I also did this and I told you so. In which case I'm sure they'd be like, oh, I knew it all along, and start playing Sweeter Than Fiction by Taylor Swift. But it is what it is. I take the wins where I can get them. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Alexa. Did I end up gagging you with that?
Gagged. No, it reminds me of Natalie saying earlier, you turn 12 and all of a sudden you hate everyone around, and you are a menace to society from 9 to 13 years old.
13.
Have not aged out of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunate. But
people are still waiting for me to.
No, it reminds me my parents used to say oh, all of the things we hate about you now are the things that are going to make you successful later. You know, that's your stubbornness, Nina. I don't care what it does to me right now. It's going to help you in life.
Yeah, which is actually where I got my first real conversation with my mom, is the way that I like to phrase it. So when I graduated, my mom was the one who flew over here to watch me wheel across the stage. And afterwards we went to the sushi place, which no longer exists, unfortunately, but we went to the sushi place and we just started talking, and she really, for the first time, got vulnerable with me because she was like, you're an adult now, and there are things that I want to apologize for, and there are things that I believe you should know about yourself as you move forward through this earth. And it was the first time I ever heard her say that she was proud of me. That she kind of admitted, and I know it's really hard for her to admit things, period. But she kind of opened up this kind of world of, she was like, listen, Nina, part of me is just really jealous that you know what you want to do and how you're going to get there from such a young age. And one of the things that I regret most in my life is I listen to people more than you do. And I did what I was told to do, and I don't feel accomplished because it doesn't feel like it was my choice. She started talking about how she wanted to open a business. She started talking about how she wanted to really start going away from corporate life and start working for herself. And she always had those little side hustles. You don't collect 7 jobs if your mom didn't have 4.
It's in your DNA.
It's in my DNA. She was the original Annie. And so I was able to have this really come to Jesus moment with her of, you know what, Mom? You weren't always there for me in the way that I wanted you to be, but you were there for me enough that it got me here. And now we are having this real conversation that was really starting to define our mother-daughter relationship for adulthood. That was when I really started to call her more often. I'd be like, I had to pick a fight with this professor. Because I had a summer class that I just needed to take for credits, and I'd be like, I had to pick a fight with this professor, and it was this, and it made me feel like this. And she was like, yeah, it is really frustrating. At work, I had to deal with this today, and and so like that kind of was just the moment where things got deeper between me and my mom, and then of course she died, and then of course I found out she had a brain tumor possibly around that time. So really, was it her or was it the brain tumor? We'll never know. It will truly be a
Doesn't
case that
matter.
remains unsolved. But either way, that is like the moment that I kind of cling on to now that she's gone. Is that really like one
Mhm,
honest moment that we had? Because that was also the last time I saw her in person.
mhm.
um that one honest moment of, now we get to just be friends, because we don't,
Yeah.
because now you're not my mom, because you see now that I don't really need a mom at this time. I need a mentor, I need a peer, I need a friend, and that is you. And kind of coming out of like child versus parent.
Mhm.
What about you guys? Did you kind of have like those more, I mean, I know Natalie talked about becoming bolder, but did you have ever that
Come to
coming to
Jesus move.
Jesus, like come
Come to
to
Jesus
Jesus,
moment.
like everyone admits that they're wrong sometimes.
um,
Or was
yeah.
that like the conversation with when you
Oh,
were like sitting down with them?
oh no.
No?
We've had many. We've had many come to Jesus moments. I feel like it needs to be renewed like every a year and a half or so.
Like a lease.
Kind of, yeah.
A lease
Um,
on our relationship.
but I think when I was saying like I got bolder, it was the I found the courage to have this come to Jesus moment with or without their acceptance, or with or without their acknowledgement, understanding, them saying like, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry." I found the courage to be like, if I do not say this to them, our relationship will never go further than where it's at. And once I put the ball in their court, it's up to them if they want to keep the relationship here or if they would like to get to know their daughter on a deeper level, you know? And I've got so many come to Jesus moments with them in the recent years that I'm kind of going through all of them to find the most impactful. But I think there was one where we all sat down because I don't remember what happened, but it was something along the lines of I I lost a friend, and I ended up not only losing this friend but being kind of involved with the process of the friend kind of being declared no longer with us. And I called my mom about it because it was like, hmm, I don't know how to deal with this, but I'm dealing with it. And it was the first time my parents weren't they were treating me like, "Oh, are you okay? Do we need to fly up to New York?" And I'm like, "No, I'm fine." And they didn't understand why I was fine. And it was the
Mhm.
first time I was able to sit down and like, "Oh, I'm fine because I've been traumatized many a times. Do you
Yes.
think this is the first time I've had to hold somebody? Well, they say I can't believe they're gone. It's
Yeah.
not, and I'm 19, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and I think that was the first time where they kind of took a step back and were like, oh, maybe we did put too much on you at a
Mhm.
young age, and maybe that responsibility wasn't supposed to be yours."
Yeah.
And I remember talking to them and being like, "Yeah, I'm strong, but I'm not strong. I'm traumatized."
You're
I
yeah.
I do well in critical situations because I have been put into them so often in my life at 24 years of age that I can handle it. Nothing freaks me out. You know,
Mhm.
I Is that a good thing? I don't know, but being able to sit down and talk to them and be like, I would love to consider myself your average 24-year-old. Unfortunately, that is not true. There has been too many events and occurrences in my life to make that true.
Yeah.
And finally getting to sit down and being like, this is why. And yes, you did have some part in that.
Yeah, not to interrupt, but like what you were saying really reminded me of this one Bones episode, and I swear it's relevant. But there's this episode where Temperance Brennan, the main character named Bones, um, says that she is impervious and not strong. Impervious meaning like nothing can pass through. You know,
Mhm.
nothing hurts her because nothing touches her. You know,
Mhm.
like everything just like hits a wall, it doesn't get to her. Um and she starts talking and she's like, I wish I was strong instead of impervious. I wish I could let things hit me and let it pass through me and withstand it instead of nothing hitting me at all and being perceived as strong and durable just because it didn't affect me.
Yeah, no, I mean, that actually probably sums up my personality to a T, because there's Nina, you could probably touch on this a little bit, but when it comes to grief, I don't
Yeah.
I don't let that touch me. I don't let loss
Mhm.
touch me until my walls are so far down that it finally,
Yeah.
it
Yeah. Me
hits me.
with my 7 jobs?
Yeah, like
That shit ain't
my
touching me.
my paternal grandfather.
Mhm.
I'm gonna try and get through this without crying, because like I said, grief.
It's okay if you do.
He was born and raised in actually he was born in Puerto Rico, but raised in Brooklyn, okay? And so
Mhm.
my entire family on that side was New York, Puerto Rican New Yorkers to the core, until they of course do the classic Puerto Rican thing of moving to Florida.
Florida.
Um, and he died 2 months before I graduated high school, and a month before I found out I got into NYU. Oh, where was I going with? Right. Um,
Puerto Rico, New York, strong.
yeah. And so
She says with a Russian accent.
he never got to know that I went back to his birthplace. And at the time, I didn't let that hit me. Didn't feel a thing. Whatever. I'm fine. I'm cool. And then, like, what? I got married in 2022. I was
Mhm.
writing down people to invite to my wedding, because for our wedding invitations, we were doing it formally.
Yeah.
And so I wrote down my abuela's name, went down to my grandma. My dad's slightly whiter than my mom, so we've got a grandma and we've got an abuela. I went down to my grandma and I wrote down his name.
Mhm.
And that's when I realized he wasn't going to be there.
Yeah.
Which is like so silly to think about, because it's like, hello, it had been like 5 years. Not actually, I think it had been like 3.
Mhm.
But that was the moment where I was like, oh my gosh, he's gone. And like, I think that like describes like the way my body and my mind will push away everything until, you don't even think about it. Like, I didn't even process the fact that he was not going to be at my wedding, despite the fact that he died in 2019 and it was 2022,
Yeah. Oh my god, this episode might be like the one where we all start crying.
Yeah, and like, that like, because I remember being told, like, oh, you're so strong. You handled everything so strong. Like, I signed my abuelo's death certificate on my 1-year wedding anniversary and didn't even bat an eye,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm strong. It might mean that, like Nina said, I'm impervious. And I think that's something I get from my mother. Whether she likes it or not, we are both those people in our families. So I guess one thing
Mhm.
her and I both got right but got wrong is that we are your ride or die, but sometimes that means sacrificing ourselves.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like, and it's really hard. And I think we could touch on this like on a different episode too. Grief and ADHD is such a it's such an interesting conversation because with object permanence, like you don't have it. So it's like there are days like where I don't even like think about my mom. And then there are days where I'm like, "Oh, I haven't talked to her in a while. Maybe I should shoot her a text." Yeah, sure, to the freaking heavens or hells. I don't know. Like I don't know where she ended up, but anyway. But yeah, there are days like that too. And there was this one day, I think I'm gonna get emotional about it too because I don't really talk about like the dead mom dreams because I don't get them often. In fact, there are more dreams where I'll expect to have her and then she just doesn't show up, and that's kind of what hits. But this one, she showed up in, and I think it was like the first dream I like had of her. Um, and I don't believe in the whole like ghosts show up in your dreams
Mhm.
kind of thing. But I do sort of believe in your subconscious puts has the information that you know and puts together connections to make something true for you. Um, and what had happened is I had gone back to the Philippines, not like just to visit, and I was spending time with my family just for a little reunion. And I was wearing that black turtleneck that I always love to wear, but it's the freaking Philippines, so it's fucking hot. So I get in the car and I try to change out of this turtleneck, but I can't. And it's like super stifling and like super claustrophobic. And my mom, I didn't hear her come in or anything, but she hops in the car with me and takes it off of me so easily. And she goes, "You know what? I'm really proud of you." Um, because I know that you have been stuck there and I know why you didn't visit and I know why you haven't come to see me in the urn or like go to my funeral. And it's not like a choice that you had, but just like what the circumstances were. Um, and you are doing the best you can with the information that you had, and you are doing exactly what I would have wanted for you to do. And so I think, when I do say like my relationship with my mom has gotten drastically better since she died, I really do mean it. because because like I said, she really only said she was proud of me when I graduated college. So like thanks a lot for her to do that. But having that moment in the dream and kind of waking up and realizing I can't like text her about it and be like, haha, you won't believe the little mess we got into in my little subconscious dream with the turtleneck, was really like rough.
Mm. Look at us. Nina, why are you such a pretty crier?
I really just have to like I'm like do not wrinkle your face, just keep going. Just keep eventually the tears will run out. Like you just gotta keep going. It's highlighter now. It's
Exactly. It's just a nice glow.
It's a dewy glow.
It's a sheen.
It's the after, it's the, you have an afterglow and this is the other afterglow.
You've heard the excuse of allergies. Wrong. It's just highlight.
Yeah. In fact, it's just maybe my eyes are just naturally that glassy.
Right? We just glisten.
Yeah. Let me just like drop the skincare routine with the filter of Zoom.
Right?
My skin would look sick if Zoom was, real.
Permanent, right?
Yeah.
Every time we come on here, I'm like, wow, I'm so pretty.
I know. It's the light, it's the pixelation, and also the filter.
What can we say?
Yeah.
On that topic of grief, if we would like to continue, this question does not need to be answered. Sure. But is there anything you wish you asked about adulthood before she died, or anything you had wished you just had like a little longer, like one more 5-minute conversation, even if it's something mundane, like, are you sure garlic needs to go in everything?
Mother, please, why did you not give me warning about this phone bill? Like, I think I needed more information before getting into this phone bill discussion. Okay, like, I think we need to do some comparables over here, and you shouldn't have left me to do it on my own, because you said trust your family, and I did. And then, before you died, literally your last lucid words to me were, but not him, though. Like, what? We're already in contract about this. What do you, I need more information. Is what I need. So that's one. um, but two, you know, I think we're gonna have to give like the viewers like context with the meeting conversation we had about phone bills.
Oh no, it's in the episode, girly. That was in our episode.
Yeah.
I forgot about
they
it.
know.
Oh yeah, they know.
They know.
Great.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Go back
The
to season
finale,
1.
I believe it
Yeah,
was.
I think it was the finale.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's that. I think also I would have loved, because my mom wasn't there when I got married. She was already dead at the time. You know, she really had no consideration for my schedule. So I think I would have asked her about, weirdly enough, marriage, even though, you know, the one with my dad clearly did not work out. Even if she told me really bad advice, I would do what I usually did and be like, that's a what not to do. You know, like, I would just have liked to hear her opinion and wait it. I would have loved to hear her talk about, not really, this isn't really advice, but like, there are so many times with the pouring pages where I ask about whether I want this marketing thing, whether I want this business plan, whether I want to do this and to do that. And I think my mother, with an accounting and marketing degree, executive vice president of a branch of cinema in the Philippines, would absolutely slay at being a business owner with me. You know, not like on paper, you know, God knows. I can't have her run any decisions. But like, we'd fail. We'd be dead in the water, all right? But
a consultant.
But just right, a consultant, just to be like, what do you think about this? Is this like is this something you would consider to be a smart move? And if not, what would you rather do? Yeah, Natalie?
I was about to make a terrible joke.
No, do it.
Do it.
I'm just gonna say your mother would have loved the pouring part of the pouring pages.
Why do you think I made it a bookstore bar? I'm so sorry, but I do tell this story often, okay? But like, listen, there are two things my mother and I would agree on now. Partially, at least, you know? Books. That is something we always agreed on. We both loved books. We never argued about books. That was a sacred thing in our relationship, even when we disagreed about everything else. And alcohol. Mom was right about the Sauvignon Blanc. Okay? That shit hits, okay?
Listen, guys, she was right about one thing.
She was right about one thing. That is the best white wine I could have ever asked for. And she should have had it with the basil, the elderflower, and the strawberries. And she would have been wasted more than she was every night. Okay, so...
I'm sorry, you see the opening, you have to take it.
No, but literally so many people, like, it's the one part of the business, how did we get here, that I can't really mention without people looking at me all concerned. Is that, my mom would have loved to fucking get wasted and read a book. All right, that's what she did every night. If I wanted to honor thy mother, this is how I honor thy mother.
You see, I took the problem. I made a solution.
Exactly.
And now I charge people for it.
So we can pay the therapy bills, guys.
And now everyone else gets to get drunk and read a book with me. Hell yeah.
Baby, just like my mom. Now that we've touched on the grief, now that we've touched on the things that they did right, given them grace for the things that they did wrong, coming out of this, what is the one question that you would like to ask them now?
You know, this is kind of a cliche, but I guess, you know, what was the highlight of your life so far, and not the cheesy, oh, having children, but you as a person, what was the highlight of your life, and then what is the lowest or your biggest regret?
Like if you could separate it from the parenthood and just like
Yeah.
personhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, well, Nina, I can slide this in for you so that we can also get your take. The parent that is no longer with me, I would say I really, for the first couple of years, just wanted to hear one more time, like you were saying, that she was proud of me, you
Yeah.
know? Like, I guess that would be the question is like, have I turned into a person that you would like to know?
Yeah.
But for the parents that are still here, I guess my question would be like, yeah, what do you dream of for the future? Like, I know that my parents sacrificed so much um for my future and for my dreams that I would love to just know, like, really, what was it that you wanted out of your life? You know what I mean? And like,
Mm-hmm.
what are your plans now to get it, Especially like my mom, I feel like has taken the whole empty nester thing, like, and is running with it. She like went back to school, she's working a new job, she's been like doing, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it's exciting to see. As much as I feel like she's excited to see my progress, like I'm still excited to see hers too. And it's nice to feel like we're on even footing in that way. Of there's always something new to dream about and hope about.
Mm-hmm. That is such a good dream. I mean, good question.
Yeah, no, honestly.
Like, what do you dream about?
Ah.
I think it is like really easy for kids to forget that their parents are people and that they have dreams too. Because it when you become a parent, it does really start getting like it's all about the kid. It's all about this kid that has to like go on after you ideally. So how do you listen, the world is a dangerous place, okay? So
I'm
but
just sorry,
ideally
but like the word you chose was ideally.
Ideally.
ideally this kid's gotta go after you, so um how do you make sure that they are set up for life? And as kids you get wrapped up in how are they setting me up for life, and you forget with they had a life, that they had parents that had to set them up for life, and how that impacted everything.
And I think with that is the perfect ending to season 2, episode 1. I know this episode was all sorts of emotional, so I hope that you felt the full scale with us. And we will see you next week with season 2, episode 2. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Yay.
We did it!
We did
it! We
We
did it.
did it. Hooray.
Yay!
Lo decimos.
We did
La la
it.
la. No, no, la la decimos. That's all I know. I don't know the actual word.